Right.
Shakir, go ahead. All right.
Yes.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Shubh Diwali to all our Hindu brothers and sisters on this joyous festival of lights. Good evening, good morning to all of you, depending on the time zone in which you live, because as we know, there are always people in this meeting from all over the world. I am Shakira Mohammed of Trinidad and Tobago, a teacher for the past 14 years. And this is the 125th edition of our Zoom public meeting. So we wish to sincerely thank all those who have contributed in whatever way to the success of this ongoing Pan-Indo-Caribbean and Pan-Indian Diaspora Global Project. For the past 124 unbroken continuous weeks, we have been here every single Sunday. So in the past 2 years, 6 months, and 3 weeks, we have featured over 419 presenters from all parts of the world, speaking on 124 topics. So ladies and gentlemen, this is a weekly forum being hosted by the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center, which is a legally registered research and publishing company operating since 2010. In order to continue this weekly program and to make it bigger and better, we're asking you to kindly give us your suggestions as well as your donations, and you can contact Dr. Kumar Mahabir for further details. All right. Before I invite our moderator, let us play a 5-minute video celebrating Diwali, the festival of lights, in Times Square, New York City last Sunday. So please enjoy the sights and sounds of the Bhangra music. So Ravin, if you can play the video.
More volume, I think, Ravin.
Here we go! Hang on! I need that off! Times Square, how we doing? I need you to say hi to one lady. Idanti, please say hello. This is the most gorgeous she's ever seen. You have to know that it takes a lot of guts to do what she does. So please make sure you go and talk to her afterwards and then say hi and then all that good stuff, you know. One last time, New York City, and then we are out of your hair. Are you ready? Say yes! Yes! Sorry about that. City is all about. Turn to the person next to you and say, hello. Happy Diwali. You are amazing. New York City, get your arms up. Give it up for my Masao and our team. You guys have been amazing. I can't wait to see you again next year. Please support us everywhere we go. And all the other crews that have been on this floor. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Namaste. Woo!
So thank you, Raven. That was definitely a festive atmosphere. So that was a taste of the Diwali celebrations in New York City. And thanks to Nala Singham for sending the recording to us. Ladies and gentlemen, our moderator this evening or tonight is Shalama Mohammed, the co-director of this Zoom platform, who is a business teacher and researcher from Trinidad and Tobago. She obtained her master's degree in business psychology from Franklin University in the USA. She's a strong advocate for health and wellness practices based on traditional and alternative healings. So Shalama, welcome. Please take over from here.
Thank you very much, Shakir. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Namaste and Shubh Diwali to all of you. Thank you for choosing to spend this part of your Sunday or your Monday morning with us. So ladies and gentlemen, this public meeting will take the usual form of a panel discussion followed by questions and answers. And let me just remind you that our IT manager, Ravin, has muted everyone. He's given permission to the speakers only to share their screen. This is really to avoid trolls from invading our program. Speakers, you are advised not to admit anyone or unmute anyone or allow anyone to share your screens. Thank you. This meeting should not exceed 2 hours. And today we are talking about this very, very interesting topic of the influence of astronomy on Indian culture and traditions, how the moon, stars, and planets affect our lives scientifically. This topic was especially selected for today because of its relevance to Diwali. The Hindu festival of lights is celebrated when the moon wanes completely and total darkness sets in the night sky. So some of the questions that we want to address in our discussions include, why are some planets, particularly the moon, used to mark certain Islamic and Hindu events such as Diwali? How does astronomy shape our construction of religion? Why are some celestial bodies, such as the sun, personified, revered, and worshipped by traditional Asian Indian religious followers? Is astronomy used to orient certain sacred buildings and burial sites to align with the cosmos? How and why are the solar and lunar cycles used to predict seasonal change and determine agricultural and livestock activities? What is the sun's influence on Earth's climate, and how does it affect weather, water levels, etc.? Finally, what is the science behind the beliefs and behaviors associated with the solar and lunar cycles? So, ladies and gentlemen, let us now hear from our panel of distinguished speakers on this particular topic. And we begin with Brandon Rees-Tillorian from England. He prefers to be called Cometon. He's a British scholar known for developing a theory of an astronic religious tradition based on astronomical observations. He has prepared a recorded video which Ravin will share. Unfortunately, he's not live with us, but we will share his email address with you in the chat so that you can direct any of your questions to him. Ravin, can you bring Cometon's video, please?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me for this really exciting lecture. I'm Cometon. I'm the founder of Astronism, and I am a doctoral researcher at the University of Central Lancashire in Preston, the UK. And today I'm going to be presenting to you a lecture on the astronic religious tradition and its influences on Indian culture. I'm really excited to bring this lecture to you all, and I apologize for not being able to be there in person, and hopefully we can work together again in the future, because I think this is a really important topic and something that can really help the modern world, even though a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is going to be about the very prehistoric and ancient civilizations of humanity. So let's get started. The Astronic religious tradition is really a theory that I developed during my master's degree as part of my dissertation, which was titled Astronomy in the Origins of Religion. And it basically stands as the fourth tradition, the fourth religious tradition, alongside Abrahamic, Dharmic, and Taoic world religions. So they, of course, are like Christianity and Islam are Abrahamic, Buddhism and Hinduism are Dharmic, and then Confucianism and Taoism are Taoic. So what I saw the world religions as was that they was missing a really important part of culture, and that was astronomy. And I really thought that there was a distinct religious tradition that exists that is based on astronomical observation. So I began to do my research, and I started to look at Stone Age rock art, and I'm going to show you some examples in a moment from Europe. And they were just fascinating. And it really just showed me that astronomy really did have a really important role and influence in the origins of religion and how culture and knowledge and sort of kind of pastimes as well, sort of hobbies and even useful tools, how astronomy was really integral to the development of all of these things. And of course, today's lecture is going to be focusing on how this emerged in the Indian subcontinent and how it influenced Indian culture. But before we do that, I just want to look at some of the origins of this astronic tradition and how it influenced religious belief and culture. So there was various different types of specimen that I discovered and sort of linked into the astronic tradition. You've got sort of rock art and cave art, as you can see on the left there. And also on the right as well. And then you've got things like lunar calendars, monuments that were constructed, like Stonehenge here in the UK. And there's also many different examples of that in India, China, Africa as well. This is a universal religious tradition, and it's all based on the stars and belief in really the stars having an effect on human life, which is of course the basis of astrology. So that's just some of the sort of origins of this astronic religious tradition. Now, the real significance of all of this is that astronomical phenomena was used by the ancient humans to really explain the world around us, the world around them and their lives. It was, and an example of this is in the Indian subcontinent, where there was many different astronomical stories and myths that emerged. And I'm going to ruin this pronunciation, but there was a really great author called Mayank Vahaya, who just gave a really concise introduction to all the different astronomical myths of India. So I've linked their book, and you can have well, it's not a book, it's more of just a short chapter really. And it's just really good to give you a good overview of all of these astronomical myths that emerged. And it just proves how much this sort of astronic tradition has influenced Indian culture. So I would really suggest that you all go and read that work, and I've linked it there. So really, astronomy was used, astronomical observations were used to explain some of the world's natural phenomena, things like eclipses, but also the creation of the universe itself was used to explain. Astronomy was used to explain that, you know, how the Earth came to be, how humanity came to be. Astronomy was used in explaining that. So it was a really important sort of role that astronomy played. And you've also got very specific stories and myths that emerged in India about Ursa Major, the Pleiades, the Pole Star, Orion as well. So there's a vast collection of astronomical stories, myths, and also beliefs as well that can be found in India and also in other parts of the world. Because really, isn't it the joy that humanity gets from explaining the world? We want to explain the world. We want to try and rationalize the world and try to understand our place in it. And astronomy has always played a very strong role in that. And really specific example of this is the cosmic hunt myth, which is a really interesting collection of myths, actually, one of the oldest collections of myths. And it told a story of hunters sort of chasing through the forest an animal, and then they kill the animal, and in various different versions of the story the animal is a different type of animal, but the spirit of that animal, when it is killed, rises up to the stars, rises up to the sky, and transforms into a beautiful constellation. And as you can see from the map there, there was a version of the cosmic hunt myth that was available, that transversed to India, which was just fantastic to see. That this cosmic hunt, even though it was in Siberia, it was in North America, it also did travel to northern India as well. And the different tribes people were retelling this story over thousands of years. Of course, there's many different versions of the story, but they all had that same principle at the basis of it, that when you die, you go to the stars. And that was the basic principle. And it was really, really interesting to see that. So I would recommend anyone who's interested in ancient astronomy, prehistoric astronomy, to please go and have a look at the cosmic hunt myth, because it is really fantastic and it does have connections to Indian culture as well. So some more sort of examples of Indian astronomism, or the astronic tradition in India, is sort of nakshatras, which was a series of 27 stars that mark the passage of the moon through the sky in a month. And each of these is associated with a deity. And then you've got the Purana cosmology, which is a conception of the Earth as a flat circular disk with a mountain named Meru at its center, surrounded by alternating rings of sea and land, forming 7 continents and 7 seas. So you can see there that that was an explanation of the world that was given through astronomical observations. And so again, it just shows the development. Of course, today we know that the Earth isn't flat, but back then, those people didn't have that kind of awareness. All they had to go on was what they could see above them, and that was the astronomical world. And so it's just fascinating to me, and I'm sure it is to all of you who are interested in astronomy, how our beliefs and our sort of perceptions of the world have developed as our astronomical knowledge has progressed. So what is really the impact of astronomy? Well, Indian uses of astronomy were vast. You know, they used it for agriculture, navigation, timekeeping, and as we've seen with the cosmic hunt myth that I was explaining, they used it for storytelling as well. And this really demonstrates how astronomy connected communities together and gave them sort of that commonality. It gave them that common view of the night sky, you know. And I've got a quote at the end of this lecture just to kind of capture that, but it just gave them that sort of commonality together, that we all view the same night sky no matter where we are. So astronomy is therefore an explainer. It explains the world. It is a connector. It connects us to each other, and it also connects us to nature as well. It's a pastime, of course, you know, it's a hobby for a lot of people. It's also a useful tool, and it was also a useful tool, you know, back in ancient times as well. And also, of course, it's a dispenser of valuable knowledge about ourselves, and the natural world. So astronomical observations continue to fulfill these functions today. Of course, nowadays we've got more advanced technologies like the James Webb Telescope that can show us even more of the universe that we've never seen before, but the same principles apply. You know, we built these telescopes in order to explain the universe a little bit more, in order to connect ourselves to the universe, in order to get knowledge from the universe as well. So astronomy is really that interconnection between humanity and the wider universe, the wider cosmos. And of course, this then developed and sort of it had an influence on culture, and Indian culture was one of those cultures that took very, very strongly to the astronic tradition. So sort of simple, unorganized systems of astromancy, which is, of course, astral divination, gradually developed. But of course, these developed into the vast organized system of Hindu astrology that we see today. Astrology and astromancy are branches of the astronic tradition, of course. And then, of course, we also saw astrology, sorry, which of course includes star worship, moon worship, and sun worship. All these different forms of sort of worship of natural phenomena, of astronomical phenomena. You know, these are widespread in prehistoric and ancient times. And just like they were widespread in Middle East and East Asia and Europe, they were also widespread in India. And this is what developed the Indian sort of love of astronomy, the love of the astronomical world, is this really sort of prehistoric and ancient belief in the stars as a portal, as a connection to the cosmos. And we see that in Hindu religious traditions. We see that in sort of just broader Indian culture as well. So to look at these different branches of the astronic tradition, they have a very, very strong and long history in the Indian subcontinent. And of course, what I also wanted to mention before I finish my lecture, my short lecture today, is that, you know, this sort of astronomical culture that India has, it's developed into India going into space and really contributing to modern space exploration programs. You know, we've got the Indian Space Research Organization, which is, of course, the national space agency for India. And, you know, that is the modern manifestation of India's cultural astronomy. And, of course, this is developing new and innovative scientific ventures using new technologies, you know. So India is playing a very important role in space exploration alongside other major countries like China, Russia, the UK, of course, and also European Union and United States. You know, India is in that category of countries, 7 countries who, you know, they are playing a really important role in space exploration and hopefully, fingers crossed, space colonization, of course. So what I'm trying to say here is that I don't think India would have gone into space if it hadn't had that really strong cultural astronomy, that really strong religious and cultural acceptance of astronomy, firstly, because not all countries and cultures accepted sort of astronomical knowledge, but also that embracement of astronomy, wanting to develop and use astronomy in various different ways. That has manifested today in the Indian advancements in and contributions to space exploration. So just to conclude, since prehistoric times, astronomy has played a really central role in shaping cultural and religious knowledge worldwide, but especially in India. and has also come to inform our individual and cultural worldviews. And you can see that in yourselves. You know, when you look up at the stars, it has a personal effect on you, and that can also influence your religious beliefs, your philosophical beliefs. And of course, you know, the influence of astronomy on Indian culture should not be understated. And I think events like this today, and this is why I wanted to be part of this event, they're really important because they show the importance of astronomy in culture. And I don't think that is talked about enough. So I'm really glad to be presenting today and to be part of this really important event because it highlights the significance of astronomy in culture. And then finally, what I just wanted to end with was the idea that, you know, whoever we are, no matter where we are or who we are on this planet Earth, you know, we all look up to the same mighty astronomical world, you know, and that just simply demonstrates that astronomy is not just an explainer, it's not just a connector, but it is the greatest unifier of all. You know, in a time where humanity is divided over so many different things, astronomy, space exploration can be one of the unifiers that we look towards and that we use to really unify our world culture now, because we are a world culture. You know, so I think that that is sort of the fundamental message that I would like to leave you with today, is that astronomy is the greatest unifier for many different cultures of the world. So here are just some references and resources that I've used in order to develop this presentation today. And I hope that you will check those out, especially the one that I mentioned earlier about the astronomical myths in India, and that really concise and easy to read overview of the astronomical myths of India. And I would like to thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope that you will perhaps take a look at my master's dissertation, which I've included in the reference list. Which is Astronomy in the Origins of Religion. And I hope you also do a little bit more research on me as well. I'm the founder of Astronism. I'm also conducting doctoral research at the University of Central Lancashire, and I've been Comitan. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I would like to come back again, hopefully, to do more lectures in the future. So thank you, everybody, and goodbye from me.
So thank you very much to Comitan in absentia. Unfortunately, he really isn't here with us live, but as I said earlier, we will take questions. If you all have questions for him, we can always have that referred via his email address. It was a very insightful presentation. He generalized, I think, the Indian view, or this is a British understanding of what astronomy means to those of us in the Indian diaspora. So thank you very much, Comitan. And now let's move on to our second speaker. This is Mr. Ricard Akbar from Mauritius. He's the president of the Mauritius Astronomical Society, and his lifelong interest in astronomy led him to study for his master's in physics in a university in France. So he will tell us more about that. Welcome, sir. You have 20 minutes. You're unmuted. You can go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Ricard Akbar from Mauritius. I am the president of the Mauritius Astronomical Society, and I wish to thank the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center for inviting me for making this presentation. It's a pleasure for me to make this presentation, albeit late in Mauritius. It's 11:30 p.m. now, but for such exciting topics, I'm ready to spend all night long. And so let me start. I will now be sharing my screen. I hope it works. Can you see my slide?
Yes, we can. Perfectly.
Thank you. Let me try to put it on full. Yes. Can you see the screen, please?
Yes.
Yes. So good evening again, everybody. And the title of the presentation will be The Influence of Astronomy on Indian Culture and Traditions. And I will be starting the presentation with a brief background of how astronomy has been constructing early human societies. And well, of course, these are prehistoric times. We do not have evidence of what happened thousands of years ago, but certainly it began by what we've been doing right now, ourselves as astronomers. It probably began as night observation by prehistoric stargazers, identifying shapes in the skies, which we now call constellations. But certainly then they did not call it constellations, but they were shapes in the sky. And very quickly, probably these shapes in the sky, they went into personification of such celestial bodies that they've been observing. Of course, again, these are very much hypotheses, but they went on into then storytelling based on such celestial bodies. And as a sociological element, these were used as cohesive elements in early human society. And being prehistoric, very certainly there was oral transmission and then progression from these oral transmission into the element of reverence. The element of reverence certainly very quickly came in, because we have to realize that these were people who did not have the theory of what they were seeing. They did not have the science in order to be able to explain what they have been seeing. And very quickly, then upon writing, upon invention of writing and written transmission, then this moved into a canonization, into a standardization of the history of what they were seeing in the sky. For India in particular, it started with the Vedic period. The Vedic period is 2000 before Christian era. And in this period, there were the sacred texts of the Vedas, which now form the basis of Hinduism, which started to be put in place by a number of authors. Currently, the study, this religion, Hinduism, well, there is some debate whether we have to call it a religion or whether an assembly of religions and beliefs, but be it as it may, it consists of the world's third largest religion. And the study of the Vedas led into some early disciplines which became necessary, and they are called the Vedangas. And the Vedangas have been supporting the rituals, because once there is a religion, automatically there is a number of rituals which accompany these religions. And then these religions, they needed, very importantly, in order to standardize the times of the year where there are these rituals, we very quickly needed a chronology of times in order to be able to support the times where these rituals are going to be held. This necessity is reflected in the Jyotisha. And in the Jyotisha, there are the timings which are there. And these timings very quickly became very practical in order to link them to a number of positions of the moon in the sky. These are called lunar stations. That is, there was a pattern which was quickly emerging, and they saw that. And in fact, not only the Indian astronomy, but many of the astronomies, also early astronomies, make reference to these celestial markers, which are called the nakshatras. They are the positions of the moon in various constellations. They are celestial markers, and then very quickly this astronomical background came in a culture, and especially in Indian culture, because we have to realize that this was the only way that they had in order to ensure that time could be measured and cyclically measured. In the Hindu calendar in particular, this was very important. The Hindu calendar is a calendar which is what we call a lunisolar calendar. And in this calendar, the important days are marked by the lunar phases. And as I explained earlier, they are marked by the lunar positions, very strong in the Indian subcontinent, in Southeastern Asia, and across the Indian diaspora worldwide. Now, something interesting is that unlike the Gregorian calendar, which is the calendar that most people across the world use, the Hindu calendar maintains the integrity of the lunar month. The lunar month is a month of 29 days, and the lunar calendar maintains that. However, what it does, the Hindu calendar, is by complex rules, every 32 or 33 months, it adds an additional full month. And this additional full month enables a synchronization between the lunisolar calendar, the lunisolar Hindu calendar, and the Gregorian calendar, so that the festivals and crop-related rituals fall in the appropriate season across the year. Now, the Hindu calendar also have been used in the Indian subcontinent since Vedic times, and they remain in use. This Hindu calendar remains very much in use by the Hindu diaspora and in Hinduism, because it sets Hindu festival, fasting days, and also important event. An important date in that is Diwali, for example. This date is a date which is based on the lunisolar calendar, and it is, for instance, the date of the new moon of the Kartik month. And it happens every year during that month, and it is the most important new moon of the year in the Hindu calendar, marking the victory of good over evil, marking the light coming again, because as it is a new moon, it means the moon is appearing again. So it is an important illustration of how astronomy comes into a calendar, and the symbology is very important in terms of the passage from darkness to light. And it is a festival of light, as we mentioned earlier. And also, interestingly, it is an example of how astronomy and astronomical influences influence also culinary traditions. Because on that day, as we all know, in Diwali, people of the Indian diaspora, they make sweets. And this is very much prevalent, not only in India, but also in many countries and most countries with significant Indian diaspora on that day, on the day of Diwali and in the period surrounding Diwali. And it is also an event which is important socially because it, as it happens right now, and we saw the video earlier of the festival in New York City, it is a day where cultural exchanges are being promoted in support of diversity and inclusiveness. Also, astronomical culture is very much prevalent in Indian architecture, in the temples, and also even in home setups. In the Indian tradition of architecture, temples and towns have to mirror cosmology. And it comes from a long time ago. It comes from the earliest of the Vedic ages, because it already happened in the Harappan cities in Mohenjo-daro. They already had it in the Bronze Age, 2000 before Christ, and they had such cities which were already cardinally oriented. In the Harappan cities, they were square-shaped cities, and they were already oriented in the cardinal points. But more recently, the designers of the city of Jaipur in India used these elements on the basis of to build the city structure in Jaipur, and also to ensure that the orientation of the city and the orientation of the squares in the city reflect these elements of the Shtapya Vedas, which are the Vedas which are relating to architecture. It's also very important in the setting of temples, and in particular the Navgraha temples, which are based on the 9 heavenly bodies that are used in Hinduism, and which are points which influence human life as per Hinduism, which are based on the 5 planets, except the Earth, and also with the sun and the moon, and also what is very important in cultures, astronomy as well, are what we call the lunar ascending and the descending nodes. These are technical names which are when the moon is moving from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere, or from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere, and when it crosses the ecliptic. So these are important points which ancient astronomers very much understood, and which are still very much there in the design of cities, which are still very much there in the design of temple, and it is an important element in Indian tradition. This goes even further, because this tradition is also used not only in architecture, but also in the setups within homes, in the Vastu, which is the belief that it is important to be able to set up a home in such a way that these are aligned with astronomical cultures and the home decors, and also very importantly in Indian culture, which are the prayer areas, which have to be aligned with such positioning compared to the stars and also to the planets and to the cardinal points in particular. An important element in Indian culture and Indian tradition is the tradition of India with respect to large numbers. This is very special in Indian culture, because the Indian culture was the first culture which really represented very large numbers. They were needed, they were simply needed because they were used to represent cyclic cosmologies in Hinduism. And what happened is that these numbers, they were based on the Indian cosmology of having a large number, infinite realms and realms. And also they had immense time scales. And in order to represent these time scales, they had to be represented using the ability to express very large numbers. So they required the invention of powers of 10 systems, positional notation of the zero, invention of the zero. And as we know, and this is very much still in use, these are systems which tend as an efficient way to represent numbers from very small numbers to very large numbers as well. They are prevalent in the Indian numbering system. They are still prevalent in the Indian numbering system to express large numbers. And this is often unfamiliar to persons who are outside of India when they hear Indian people or Indian documentation talking of lakhs or of crores, and people do not often understand. But this is typical of the culture and tradition of Indian mathematics of expressing large numbers, which is quite unique. Being a multicultural society, India has a large Muslim culture as well, and Islam is the second most important religion in India. It is interesting to note that the Islamic world, when it came to India, certainly accelerated progress in mathematics and in astronomy in India. Why? Because there was that additional obligation in the Muslim culture to determine the direction of the Mecca and also the prayer times. And these were very important in terms of calendars. So astronomers had to be able to determine time over a long period in order to determine the prayer times, for instance, and the moments for which there has to be the visibility of the new moon, which led to the festivals such as Eid in Muslim culture in India in particular. My last slide is about astronomy and culture in Mauritius. I'm Mauritian, I'm from Mauritius, and Mauritius is very much a multicultural society. We were talking about Diwali tomorrow, and this is a national festival. There are many other festivals which are also national festivals, such as the Thaipusam, such as the Chinese New Year, Christmas, Easter, Eid, Ganesh Chaturthi, Holi, Mahashivratri. There is a local pilgrimage, which we call Father Laval here, and also Ugadi. An interesting element is that the majority of these festivals are dependent on the lunisolar calendar. And if they are dependent on the lunisolar calendar, it means that they have an astronomical background. And therefore, it is undeniable that the major festivals in Mauritius, including also the Christian festivals such as Easter, for instance, are based on astronomy. They have an astronomical background. They depend on lunisolar calendars and the positions of objects in the sky in order to be determined in terms of timing. And Mauritian culture is very respectful of these days and holidays. And in terms of, again, social construction and the social mesh, they constitute an important element for nation building and intercultural exchanges in the Mauritian context. And it contributes certainly to the promotion of social stability and harmony in the Republic of Mauritius. As a conclusion, astronomy has, over the millennia, been at the source of many cultures, strongly so for Indian societies, and the sociological counterpart, Hindu astrology, currently still profoundly influences the everyday calendar of Indian societies. And it has an important influence on societies worldwide with sizable Indian diasporas. And with globalization, as we are seeing in New York, such events are accompanied with festivities. And certainly, we have experienced that they have the potential to promote an understanding and sharing between nations and cultures. I thank you for the opportunity for us in Mauritius to have made this presentation. We find that it is very interesting that Mauritius is being given the opportunity to give a slideshow to people all over the world, initiated in the Caribbean. It is a true example of globalization. We certainly express our appreciation to everybody for the patience of listening to us, and we look forward for giving further opportunities in the past for global connection, albeit through the internet and albeit in difficult times otherwise. Thank you, everybody, and have a good day and a good week ahead. Goodbye.
Mr. Akbar, that was an excellent presentation. I want to thank you very, very much for sharing all that you have. And I want to depart from the norm. Usually we will take questions only at the very end of the presentation. But because you are on right now, and Dr. Sabani Roy, who is from Wales, by the way, she's asking an interesting question, and I hope you'll be able to respond. So on the chat, she's asking, it would be curious to know, how do you relate astronomy in horoscope making of prospective brides and grooms in the culture of arranged marriage? Would you be able to shed any light on that? You're muted. You'll have to unmute, Mr. Akbar. Unmute yourself.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you. Sorry for that. Thank you. That's a very interesting question indeed. And it's something certainly very real in Hindu societies regarding matchmaking and regarding not only weddings, but many other elements of human life are then related to astrology. As I mentioned earlier, my presentation is science one. And what I believe is that there is a science behind that astrology. But astrology being a social construction, then the interpretation of that, of those elements are then meshed with other elements of Hindu religion. So astrology is a different, not science, but it's a different activity of human society. Astronomy is a science. And by virtue of human society, by the nature of humanity, also there is the important fact that then most human societies, and not only the Hindu society, most human societies have also gone into other interpretation of what they observed in nature. So these other interpretations are very much certainly there, very much influenced by the various factors which come in terms of religious factors. But what we want to, at the level of the Mauritius Astronomical Society and at the level of science, what we want to simply put forward is that there is a scientific explanation behind this. Of course, it is left to everybody to understand what is the social element, but there is a science fact which relates to this, and it is also good, in addition to the astrological element, to understand the science fact. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. We really appreciate your clarification. If anybody else, well, Dr. Mahabir has just put it on the chat. If you do have a question for Mr. Akbar, please go ahead and put it in the chat and we will try to accommodate as soon as we can. Thank you once again, sir. Your presentation was excellent. Let us move on now to our third speaker, and this is Dr. Dinesh Pathak from India. He's a lecturer currently in physics at the University of the West Indies here in St. Augustine. He's a former visiting scientist at Queen's University, Kingston in Canada. And Dr. Pathak is not live with us at the moment, so we have a pre-recorded presentation for him that Ravin will share with us now. Ravin, go ahead, please. Yes, astrology and astronomy are two different things. Thank you, Leonard. So now to Dr. Pathak's presentation. He did mention that there was a slight glitch at the beginning.
If you see the map here, in the Caribbean, so we have 4 major campuses. The one is at Cave Hill in Barbados, then in Jamaica, which is called Mona campus. Then our one is in Trinidad, which is St. Augustine campus, and also we have other open campuses as well in different countries like Anguilla, then Antigua, then Bahamas, Belize, Bermudas, and so many other. So university started in 1948 as a medical college, and later it went globally with the 10 global center, and then serving the all Caribbean countries. And this is our campus at St. Augustine, which is in Trinidad and Tobago. So this campus has various faculties like the Faculty of Medical Sciences, Faculty of Law, Faculty of Humanity and Education, Agriculture, Social Sciences as well, and currently has students more than 16,000. And the university, we feel privileged to announce that the university already has rank in first 600 worldwide. And this is our department of physics where I'm working along with other 11 academics. We have the different staffs and different courses as listed here. Like we have BSc in physics, BSc in electronics, BSc biomedical technology, MSc renewable energy, then MSc biomedical physics, then MPhil and PhD in various fields. So coming to the topic today, as I was supposed to talk something on the issues like the influence of astronomy on the human life, that how moon, stars or planet affect our life. So obviously we understand that sun has major role in the life on the earth. Without sun, we can say that life is almost impossible on the earth, like because sun ultimately provides us heat, light, which make the environment warmth, and also it is responsible, the sun is responsible for various weather, the day and nights, weather conditions, water cycle even, that we understand. And scientifically, if we say that sun, without sun, obviously the life on the earth is impossible, because there will be no water circle, also there will be no day and nights, no different weather, no source of energy, natural source of energy. So expecting life on earth without sun is almost impossible. And there are there are scientific reason for we all understand that there are scientific reason for the change of day and nights, or the different weather throughout the air, throughout on the earth. Obviously, we see that in some countries we feel that there is much cold. Some in some countries we see there is much snow throughout the year. Some countries like here in Caribbean we don't see the season winter. So these reason can be understood by the astronomy, that actually earth is tilted at the angle of 23.5 degree, and that is why we feel it affect the temperature day and night, and in each hemisphere. And of course it also affect the season, uh, from winter to summer. In some countries we see winter season, then summer season, and they all are because of this tilt and the motion of earth around the sun. And obviously this tilt and the motion which is affecting day and night, temperature, or the seasons, is affecting our life, that we understand, because in some countries we have different crop system. Some countries we have, like here in Caribbean, we have different crop system because of this different season. We can relate this the season when we see the equator and other tropic of Cancer and the tropic of Capricorn and Arctic and Antarctic, means the locations. This affect ultimately the climate region, dry season. Somewhere we say the it is tropical, very high temperature zone, like here near to the equator. And obviously this is affecting our climate or season, rain, and all these things, and hence the obviously the vegetations and population as well. So sun has direct influence. We say we can correlate with the astronomy that sun has direct influence on the livelihood and the life of people on the earth located in the different parts and different countries. So the thing is that why, relating it with the religion, that why we pray sun. So worshipping of the sun is observed not only in Sanatana or Vedic or Hinduism, but it is observed in many other ancient scripts that people were worshipping the sun. Like in Greek script, we see in ancient time they were having in religion some symbols. In Egypt literature, we also see some symbols that those people, they were praying and worshipping the sun. So actually, in my opinion, what I believe is that in old time that people were not much follower of science, and rather than the people were following the religion more as compared to science. So these things were included, I believe, that in religion by the people who understand a bit of science, so that people can follow the things correctly. So we understand that sun is responsible for the each new day, weather change, water cycle, or and in nutshell we can say that it is responsible for the life on earth. we should say that without sun, the life on earth is almost impossible. So that is why in religion it was given the status of god. In various religion and various ancient scripts we see sun actually ultimately provide the opportunity for various seasons on the earth, day and night, hot, cold weather, rainy, dry days. Hence, we can say that the it provide the opportunity of different environment and different places and for life for different species on the earth surface. So what we see, if you see on the internet or in the literature, you will observe that sometimes people have believed that only in Sanatana or Hinduism people believe that the sun as the god, as god. But if you see other ancient literature as well, like the Greek literature or the literature from Egypt, you will also see that they were also praying the sun in the older time. So the thing that why we consider sun as a god, the reason is that ultimately sun provide the opportunity for life on the earth, and people were believer of the religion in the all time rather than science. So that is why I believe that the sun was included in literature as equal to the status of god. So the thing is that not only sun but other planets like moon also find place. Moon and some other planets, they also find place in the religious scripts. People pray sometime moon as well, or with the motion of moon or the cycle of moon, they prohibit some of the activities and they encourage some activity. So we should also try to understand this. So people believe that the motion of planets can affect the emotions and behavior and life of the individual. Although this statement is controversial, some people, those who are hard believer of science, they say that it is not possible, but some people say that it is possible. There was a survey done in NSF, that's National Science Foundation. 41% of the people, they said that yes, the behavior, emotions that is affected by the motion of planets and some cycles of the planets. So some people justify this thing that those who are believers, they justify that yes, that because we feel tides, which is because of the moon's pull, gravitational pull. So if the moon, which is so far, can bring the tides on the earth's surface because of pull or gravitation, so human body is also made up of from a lot of water. So why it cannot be so? But this is just their belief. Means we cannot say that that it is proved. But yes, some people consider that the behavior or psychological changes in human can be caused by the various planets' motion and the things like so. But some people say, those who believe that it is not possible, so they say that it is only psychological. For example, if some person is doing fishing, so because of some gravitational pull which brings tides in the on the sea, so that time fishing can be better or bad. And if it is better, so obviously the psychological behavior of that the fishermen's that will be changed. So some people also say like that. Going to the science, that if the lunar cycle or the moon phases can affect the human behavior of the psychology, you will find so many research paper. Or if you will search on the Google, like one I have pasted over here is this the paper published by Michael Jed. This is the name of the person. He published a paper in National Library of Medicine. He discussed the various aspects that obviously the lunar cycle or moon phases can affect the human behavior. Not only this paper, but you can find so many research paper in the modern science, the science which we do nowadays. You can find so many so many research paper. So, so the moon worship is also founded in various literature, and it is observed that people say that the worshipping moon can affect uh, uh, the human behavior as well. So in general, we say that there is still controversy that this the science which which we the science the hard believer in the science, they say that astrology do not work. Some people believe that the astrology work. As already I discussed that uh, the survey which was done by National Science Foundation, the 41% people responded that that responded believe that astrology is very scientific or some sort of scientific. So some people says that it is scientific, some says it is not scientific, and that the thing is that if we say that it is to be believed or not, but the every human thing in the life is actually based on the belief system. See, some people still do not believe that earth is round, some still believe that it is flat, although it is well established fact now that it is of course round, not the flat. So that it is uh, it can be said that yes, there are many further things which should be done to explore and understand the science which is related to the astronomy and astrology further with the human life. So there are many other things apart from the astronomy which people believe that and why it is what is science there. For example, in Indian context or the people from the Indian origin wherever they live, they have the tulsi plant in their household, in front of their household, and they even in India, people in India and other many places, they grow tulsi every year, and then they pray for tulsi every day in the every evening. So the thing is why it is so. So in my opinion, it is related to immunity. Actually, the tulsi plant is believed to be have very good immunity booster. Even and immunity, ultimately immunotherapy or immunity is the uh, coming very is the coming treatment, best treatment which is coming further after the other sciences which already have grown up. So even the last to last year medical science, the Nobel Prize was awarded for the immunotherapy, where all the treatment failed and one person treated the cancer cell by immunotherapy. Similarly, why in Indian context, if you see people pray the people plant. Uh, people is believed to be have very good producer of oxygen in day and night, and that is why it was related to religion. In some many functions, including some marriages, people do turmeric bath and use turmeric in various religious occasions. So turmeric is very rich in actually curcumin. People have proved now, the modern science has proved that turmeric is very rich in curcumin, and this is used in cancer treatment actually. In Indian context, we also say that we consider cow as a god. So some people criticize also this thing that how an animal can be god, but cow milk and cow colostrum, the first few days of milk is believed to have very good health benefits, and not other animals. Science has proved that only the cow's milk is can be considered to be have much more health benefit as compared to other. So that is why cow is treated as holy in Indian context. And we also have like opinion that in science says that when you marry in same close connection to DNA, that is not good for future generation. So in Indian context or in Sanatana, it is the custom actually that not to marry in same clan, having, because they have same DNA. So then fasting is observed not only in Hinduism, Sanatan, Vedic or Vedic, but in other religions as well. So sometime when we do it by religious practices, people criticize those who are not follower of any religion. Though they criticize that how God will become happy when you are doing fasting. So it is not so like that, but again the thing is that fasting has many health benefits, it help in prevention and cure of many diseases. Modern science has proved it, so that is why it was included in the older time, like in that. So same with the yoga is now worldwide accepted, and people have believed that yoga and much enhanced supply of oxygen to the human cell that can cure many diseases. Also during the time of that solar or moon eclipse, people don't eat in many religions. So this is science actually, because it is believed that the radiation affect and it kill many organism on your in kitchen and vegetable surfaces, and that's why after eclipse people clean everything and then they go for. The thing is that there are many such things which are related to religion, which were believed to be not scientific, but there was science in this, and that is why people, as I said, that people were more follower of science rather than religion. So many things were included like that. So uh, I hope that I tried to explain a bit about this, that how the various beliefs they are related to religion. And in the old time, what I believe is that in the old time there was not much explored science, so those who were believer of science, they included many such things in in human day-to-day life and in our life system, uh, to so that people can follow these things, because people in the old time, they were more believer of religious beliefs, not of science. And still, yeah, many things are to be done. In as we see astronomy and astrology, many things need to be done to explore that science, to understand that whether the the these things have relation with the science or not. Thank you.
Another excellent presentation by Dr. Dinesh Pathak. So I'm getting from it that we are really we revere those things which have some kind of a positive benefit on our lives. And the whole idea behind astronomy and religion is that we try to understand. We are reflecting on all of these things and trying to understand our world and how we are affected by the things that are in our world, things that we do not understand. We are still trying to understand. So, in absentia, thank you very much, Dr. Pathak. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have our final speaker, and this is Professor Sharon Hack of Trinidad and Tobago. She's a professor of astronomy at the university, just where Dr. Dinesh Pathak is. She is also a SAPGA Caribbean Awards for Excellence in Science and Technology laureate. Dr. Hack is the only woman to have received a CARICOM Caribbean Science Award. Unfortunately, she too is unable to be with us live at this time, but we have a recording from her, which Robin will share with us right now. Robin, go ahead, please.
Hello, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to join you in this forum this afternoon. My apologies that I could not be there as a live session, but it is a marvelous topic and certainly something that's very, very dear to my heart. I want to thank the organizers for this amazing forum that they have set up and have been a great success at. So thank you, Dr. Kumar and his very, very efficient team. So folks, I am Professor Sharon Hack, and by profession, I'm an astronomer, and I'm going to start sharing my screen with you at this point. Okay, so the title of my presentation is Astronomy, the Origin Story of Humanity. And I hope in the next few minutes, I can show you the power of astronomy and what it has done in our lives to the present day. It is, as is already well known, that it is the oldest science, because as long as humanity has had eyes that could look heavenward, the discipline of astronomy was born. Now, one of the most important things that I want to establish right up front, and in the many, many lectures that I give out there in public that I'm very aware of, is the common misconception between the terms astronomy and astrology. So folks, they're actually quite different. And well, I'm sharing that little cartoon with you. So what I would often do in my classes is that I would ask the students, how many people here know their birth sign, their horoscope? And as you can possibly guess, there's an overwhelming response. Almost everybody, pretty much 100% of persons can say what sign they are born under in their horoscope, as can you if this was an actual face-to-face or live session. And then the next question I ask them is, do you know where that constellation is in the sky? Do you know where Sagittarius, where is Gemini, where is Taurus in the sky? And almost no hands will go up. And that is my way of distinguishing to people out there the big, huge difference between astronomy and astrology. So what you're seeing on this side is astrology. And I guess I was self-serving. I used my own sign, Sagittarius. Okay, so this is what people are far more familiar with. This is what you will find in all the newspapers where the daily horoscope is reported. Far less you will see what's on the right side of your screen. So Sagittarius is a constellation in the sky. And as an astronomer, so I want to establish that right up front. I am not an astrologer. I'm an astronomer by profession. And what excites us is that when we look up in the sky and we see Sagittarius, what I know is that I'm looking in the direction of the center of the Milky Way. And that's the scientific aspect of all of it. So astronomy deals with the science of the cosmos and the skies and everything around us. And there is so much. It's like this amazing treasure hunt and an awesome place of wonder. Okay, so that's what astronomy is versus astrology. But they have an interesting story together, of course, and that's what we're going to look at briefly. So all of us are absolutely incredibly special. And this is something that it's a simple thought, but if you ponder upon it, I think it's quite powerful. That for each one of us to be here, every single one of your ancestors has survived to an age, was able to reproduce in an unbroken line, which goes back hundreds of thousands of years. So I just say earlier than we have actual records for. So at that time, life was nothing like how we know it today. And survival was not the rule. And all of us, records and science shows that all of us come from Africa. That's where the earliest people were, and they started walking. And it was a very, very dangerous environment. Eventually, in time, over a period of millions of years, the data goes back to actually, they discovered fire, and that helped protect them from the predators. It helped bring light into the night time. they discovered tools, and now they can hunt, and you start to see the earliest signs of technology starting. And with that, they became hunters and gatherers. But this was not yet enough to form a civilization. And our early ancestors in Africa, they began walking. And they walked and they walked and they walked. I always say that, you know, we always look for the closest car park to the mall. And it's like, folks, your ancestors walked planet Earth. They did. Of course, they took thousands of years to do it, nonetheless. All right, right? So the earliest civilizations that formed, of course, was one of the fundamental things for humans to survive was water. So they all formed around bodies of water. So the oldest civilizations are Mesopotamia, which is here bordered by two rivers, Tigris and Euphrates. And around Nile, you had ancient Egypt and all the wonders that developed there. And then as you go towards the east, you come to the Indus Valley. And here we had the Indus River, and where some of the earliest civilizations formed. And around the Yellow River, you had, or Yangtze River, the Chinese civilization developed. So those are the 4 river civilizations that developed tremendously and are our earliest records. So earliest records come mostly from Mesopotamia, right? But discoveries continue to happen. So you can see the role of India as one of the earliest civilizations that had developed and that we have records for. And in India, it was around the Harappan civilization around the Indus River, and that lasted for a very, very long time. And this is a movie I highly recommend you watch. I enjoyed it very much, Mohenjo-Daro. It is set in what would have been the earliest civilization where Indian people had settled, okay? So check it out. It's really nice to see it. That I'm very happy that they made a movie of that. So some of the earliest artifacts and so on in the Indian civilization comes from that. So you're like wondering, well, where's the astronomy? Where's the astronomy? Well, now that humanity had settled and they needed to, so agriculture now kicks in. Okay, so they're no longer hunters and gatherers. And with agriculture, and as we all know, what we learned in primary school, that for survival, you need food, you need water, and you need shelter. And if they had settled, they needed to know how buildings were being put down and roads and farmlands and things like that. And these things are actually fundamental to all humans to this day. If you ever go into a new country, one of the first things you do is you start to get that sense, you start to orient yourself, start to know where directions are, all right? And so too, our very early ancestors. And the next thing you do is you glance at your watch, right? So we have it nice and simple, but thousands of years ago, 10,000 years ago, they didn't have watches as we do. So where was the answer to survival? Okay, yeah? Now you see where this is taking you? All the answers for the survival of humans lay in the skies. And they didn't have pollution, they didn't have electricity. So you can imagine how stunning the skies were for the ancient people. And they started to observe them, and rains came from the skies. Drought was absence of rain, and that too was connected with the skies. And therefore, the ancient people started to see that there were some of the objects that were moving among the stars, and these are the planets, and therefore they gave them godlike status, and rituals began, and you can say early forms of religion began, and it's all connected with the skies, because water comes from the skies. Water is essential for agriculture and food, and therefore we need to be able to be placate the gods at the early times. And as things developed, they needed to be able to predict what was going to happen. So what defines you as humans? All right. So Mahatma Gandhi said, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. But what you notice is he was born in 1869 and died in 1948. One of my favorite scientists, right? Astrophysicist, Chandrasekhar. And he was born in 1910, and he's, of course, a Nobel laureate and died in 1995. Are you seeing a pattern here? Now, in the Hindu faith, people are generally cremated, so you don't get the headstones and so on. So I borrowed from some other scientists. Fermi is also a Nobel laureate, and his entire life is a headstone. Physicist, 1901 to 1954. He played a huge part in the development of the atom bomb. Fleming, astronomer, Wilhelmina, right? 1857, 1911. And this name, I hope many of you do know, Carl Sagan. It doesn't even say astronomer. Okay, 1934 to 1996. What's the point I'm making here? That all of us, our lives are defined by when we are born and when we die. That's the bracket of all of our experience. And therefore, you see why it is natural that the time of a person's birth becomes so important to the people long ago, because it's what defines us. And make the link of how important the skies were for them. So isn't it a natural connection that the time of the birth is linked to whatever was happening in the skies at the time? So I have very little time to could go through to spend on some of these things. So here you're seeing, interestingly, the Western horoscope, which is based on from the Greeks versus the Indian Vedic astrology. And as remind you again, I'm not an astrologer, I'm an astronomer, right? But they do have the same 12 signs of zodiac and the same types of, there are details that differ, but that's not what I'm here for today. Okay, but it's to show you why astrology and our birth is tied to the skies. And astronomy as a science found its birth in the bellies of astrology. Okay, so astrology came first, but by 2000 years ago, even in India, astronomy and astrology go their separate ways. And I borrowed a little bit from Rudyard Kipling when he said, oh, astrology is astrology and astronomy. No, he didn't say that. I of course covered it up, right? He talked about east is east and west is west. Oh, I thought it'd be interesting to say it like this. Astrology is astrology and astronomy is astronomy, and never the twain shall meet. But, so once they went their separate ways, but there's always a but in life, isn't there? Fossils remain with us. And it all started with astrology, and it's with us today. So your sessions, these sessions are held every Sunday. How often do we pause to think? And we know what we're going to do on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, and there's 7 days of the week. Have you ever stopped to think, why are there 7 days in a week? Why aren't there 10 days? A month is approximately 30 days. That would have been a nice division. Of course, weekends would have taken much longer to come by, but there's a reason why there are 7 days in the sky. There's 7 days in the sky. I gave it away. Okay. They are all the ancient people. They could see 5 naked eye planets, and of course the sun and the moon. And each of these became like gods, and therefore a day was dedicated to each. Okay. So Sunday, sun, Monday, moon, Tuesday, Mars, Wednesday, and next slide will show you exactly where it comes from. If you're into Spanish, it's easier that way. Martes, Tuesday, Wednesday, miércoles, Mercury, Jupiter is Thursday, Thursday, or jueves, right? Jupiter, Friday, viernes, Venus, and Saturday, Saturn. Okay, so that's why, like I said, ancient astrology, ancient things that humans understood are with us today and will remain with us, right, into the future. So it's actually 7 planets of the week, right, that it comes from. All right, and like I said, all that looked at thousands of years ago is still with us today. And as I'm wishing everybody Shubh Diwali, right? Because of the time the session is being held, for all of you. But the determination of Diwali has to do with the skies, right? It's the darkest night, and that corresponds to the new moon. I've worked for a long time with the Muslim community on the determination of Eid and Ramadan, because they use the lunar calendar and the visibility of the crescent moon. So you see the powerful role that the skies continue to play in our lives. Right? And it's not limited to Hindus and Muslims, but as well as Christians and Jews. Also, the determination of their festivals are related to motion of the sun in the sky, equinoxes, right? And solstices. All of these things have played a huge part in the history of humanity. So that's why I said it is the origin story of humanity. I teach a course, well, I designed and teach a course, History of Astronomy. Oh, let me make a correction there, History of Science. So History of Astronomy is a segment there, as well as I design and teach a course called Introduction to Astronomy. And when I was putting this stuff together, and you look at different textbooks, and over, I saw that when you look at History of Astronomy, it begins with the Greeks. And there's actually powerful omission of any of the ancient astronomy that other cultures had contributed, mostly from the Indian culture and even from the Arabs, and their contributions are tremendous. So this led to a paper by myself and Deva Sharma, Indian Astronomy, the Missing Link in the Eurocentric History of Astronomy, because textbooks after textbooks, there was nothing really on with the contribution from India. So of course, my courses do have them. And in class, I would go to the students that, how many people here know Pythagoras and Aristotle and Socrates, and all the hands go up. Then I go, how many people here know Aryabhatta and Brahmagupta and Bhaskara? No hands go up. One time in a lecture, one student put up their hand that they knew Aryabhatta, and I was like so impressed. And then the student goes on to say, Miss, I was in your class. So that's a major sad point there. Okay, so meet the persons who did tremendous contribution to astronomy from India. So as much as we know of the powerful role of astrology in Indian life, right? Aryabhatta and Brahmagupta and Bhaskara were mathematicians and scientists who discovered a long time before a lot of their work. What we know Copernicus and what Newton and they've done, and that's what we build on, the seedlings of it are actually already began in some of these times. So I leave you to read that because my time is limited, but Brahmagupta discovered the circumference of planet Earth, worked it out, and a lot of details that the Indian astronomers / mathematicians did that they were able to show. And all of these writings are with us. Now, as I begin to wrap up, a country's technological prowess is best shown by its ability to go into space. We could do an entire lecture on that. It is why in the 1960s, between Russia at the time and the United States, there was that race to the moon. Okay, and if you can show leadership in space technology, you rock as a country. All right, and just very quickly, only 4 nations have successfully sent a spacecraft into Mars orbit, and India is one of them. And India got it on the first trial. Most of the other previous missions have been failures by other countries. 7 countries have been to the moon, okay? And that now includes India. So this is a lovely book, The Indian Space Program, India's incredible journey from the third world to the first. There's so much remarkable way in which India approaches the space technology and its missions. So the India Space Agency, ISRO, the cost of sending the Mars mission was, like, as you can see, hugely a fraction of what happens in NASA. So they're certainly on their journey to space and to the future. Because space technology, the amount that it can do for the national development in your personal lives for all countries. So even though it all started as astrology once upon a time, and astrology allowed or needed people to observe this motion of the planets and the stars and things like that, and that led to development of mathematics and technology. So folks, I end my session with, again, words from Subramanian Chandrasekhar, and he said, "It is indeed an incredible fact that what the human mind at its deepest and most profound perceives as beautiful finds its realization in external nature. What is intelligible is also beautiful." And I think that absolutely expresses what astronomy, the science of astronomy is. Thank you for having me. If any of you have questions which have not been addressed by the panel that you think I can help with, feel free to send me an email. You can look me up on the internet, shirin.hack@gmail.com. So have a wonderful session and thank you for the invitation. Bye.
And that was quite an educational presentation. I hope many of you all are as edified as I am at this point in time. So I want to thank Professor Shirin Haq, excellent presentation, and all our other presenters. And this meeting is being recorded live. It would be uploaded later on YouTube permanently for posterity. And we are also live streaming on our YouTube channel. So I want to say hello to all of you all who are on the live stream. At this point in time, I want to ask you if you do have any questions at all. It can only be taken by our speaker from Mauritius, and that is Mr. Ricord Akbar. All the others are recordings, so he is here with us. If you do want to ask any questions, please use the reaction button, raise your hand so that I can call upon you. Yes, Betty, I agree. Very, very informative. All of our presenters today were just fantastic. So I'm not seeing any raised hands at the moment. I am making an assumption that we have many of our questions answered already. All right. Okay. Uncle Sham, go ahead, please. Unmute.
Okay, you'll have to tell them who Uncle Sharon is.
Go ahead.
And why.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I'm really, really delighted with a presentation like this you had this afternoon. My only regret is that the presenters did it, recorded. It would have been so great if we had them live to ask them questions and so on. But nonetheless, I'm so glad that our representative from Mauritius is here. And I would like to ask this question. How do the longer cycles of time, besides day and year and seasons and so on, ice ages even, like the axial wobble also is a cycle of time. How do these longer cycles affect culture and life? Has he seen anything like this, or could that be mentioned at all, or is it too long a period before our cultures have already started? Because axial wobbles take about 26,000 years to take place, to occur.
Mr. Akbar, can you respond, please? Please unmute. You're muted. Please unmute your mic.
Good evening, everybody. I'm afraid I did not get the question too well because the sound wasn't too good here.
Okay,
Okay.
May I try it once more?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to know, Dr. Akbar, how do the longer cycles of time, beside day and week and seasons and years and so on, for example, the axial wobble, which takes about 26,000 years. How do we have anything written about the effects that these things could have on culture and on life in general? A longer cycle like that. And also something like the Milankovitch experience, you know, the long period, the changes in the Earth's orbital movements and so on. How do these affect not only the scientific side of it, but the human and the cultural side of it as well?
Thank you for your question. If I understand you well, you're highlighting the element of time. Is that
yes,
it?
the time, the longer movements of time, rather than just, we know how the seasons and so on affect us, but we want
Yes,
how
thank
these
you.
longer cycles affect not only, I would think about things like culture and so on. Are there any writings about these things as yet, or any research in that area?
Thank you. Thank you. Indeed, in the Indian cosmology, time periods have been very long. And this is what brought them into inventing notations and references in terms of long time periods. So it both affected culture and also their cosmology, because at the end of the day, they needed ways of recording such long time periods in their sacred texts. Of course, when it came into the sacred texts at the same time, it found very practical applications in society, because at the end of the day, they invented a mathematical system which could record such long periods of time. But this is how it came in terms of first the origins of large numbers, but then it has continued over the ages. I hope that this helps. Thank you.
Okay, yes, thanks. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. And to Mr. Akbar, we have compliments from Mr. David Clark. He's complimenting you on all the others and excellent presentations. So once again, we really appreciate all the effort from our speakers today. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I want to bring on in this final segment the official launch of our planned ICC tour of Suriname, which is scheduled to take place next year on August 9th to the 14th. So I want to introduce you now to our Surinamese coordinators, and that is Dr. Rajan Baldev and Mr. Gangaram Pandey, Bhagwan Gangaram Pandey, both from Suriname. So we have a small presentation, and I believe Mr. Rajan Baldev will be leading off that presentation, but both gentlemen are here, and we want you to at least be able to see who will be leading us in Suriname. So I now turn you over to who Mr. Dinesh Pathak, Dr. Dinesh Pathak will have dubbed the local Kishore Kumar. We learned about his singing abilities when he was here in August. So Rajan, over to you. Go ahead, please. You can unmute.
Thank you, Shalima, for this brief introduction. Thank you also to ICC that we have the opportunity to have this joint project in Suriname in the whole idea of getting our...
Good evening. I would like to say hello.
Sorry about that, David. Please keep your mic muted. Go ahead, please, Rajan.
That we can have this joint program running in Suriname in a similar way we have experienced in Trinidad, to get diaspora from all over the world together on one spot to enjoy the goods and the bads we have endured and celebrated in our respective countries, so that we can have a good idea of how our people who came here from India have managed and have survived. We hope to see in the near future also, of course, Fiji, Mauritius, and all other places where we have heard so much of, and we are proud to present to you some small items we have collected together to be part of the tourist program about Indian presence in Suriname since 1873, the period in which most of the indentured labor countries had their immigrants from India. So part of the program will, of course, be that we will be having road trips, and that will be, of course, city tours and also countryside tours, because we came here for agriculture, and plenty of our people stayed on the countryside to do agriculture, sometimes in a modern way, sometimes in the old-fashioned way, but we still are very much present in agriculture, also in Suriname, where for example, the rice industry is nearly 98% in the hands of our Indian community, producing all of the rice Suriname needs, and we also export. It's part to be proud of, but we didn't only stay in the of course in the agriculture. We have after 150 years, next year will be the 150th year. We have covered actually all professions, all stages in society, and we are proud of it. To start with, we'll have today an introduction about some monuments we will have to show you in our country. We start in the district of Comowene, which is the most eastern district, where abundance, not so fast, please, where the most of the a lot of Indians were replaced the Afro-Surinamese people who when slavery was abolished in 1863, and they had to work 10 years longer with a salary on their respective plantations. In 1873, our ancestors came from India. First time it was in June 5th, 1873, the boat landed here, and we have that as our Indian arrival day in Suriname. A lot of people were, of course, installed in 5 districts, one of which is Comowene. The second one is Wanica, which is a current district becoming part of the big city of Paramaribo. Of course, also in Paramaribo at that time there still were plantations. The district of Saramaka, and the last one is the most western district called Nikeri, which borders with Guyana, and because of which we have a lot of Guyanese influences in the Indian culture of Nikeri. To start with this monument is in the most eastern part of Suriname, and that is the memorial about uproar in 1902. The previous slide, please. And that monument, in that uproar, some 15 people were killed, and the whole start of it was that white foremen could not keep their hands off Indian ladies at that time. So this led to a lot of uproar, because the ladies at that time, of course, were a minor group coming from India. The amounts were not equal, so there was, like, say, much protection for the ladies, because at that time, even if they were just as much productive as the men on the fields, this was still kept as a kind of a protection, that you should not touch ladies of that society they formed at that time. So in 1902, July 30th, there was a big uproar over in Marienburg, and the colonial government gave the police the right to shoot at the people, and some 15 people were at that time killed. Next slide, please. This is a monument next to the presidential palace in Paramaribo City. Again, an uproar which was more earlier in 1884. Again, with the same circumstances, but here also social circumstances led to an uproar in which this lady Teteri, who was like, say, a fresh immigrant, but she was very active in social rights. Even on the ship already, she had taken care of better medical, how you say that, treatment of patients. And on the land, when she was at the forest estate Sorg en Hoop, a name which you will also see in Guyana, she took care of the social and circumstances to get them raised to better standards, and uproar because of that led to her killing on September 24th in 1884. She got a statue. It's more like symbolic because we don't really have pictures of that time. But in this statue, a lot of social uproar, social activities of the first Indian lady is how you call it, is formed, and we hope to show you this and give you a better explanation of what went on in that time. Next slide, please. This is the statue of our Indian leader we have had here for over 60 years. And this is Mr. Jagannath Lakshman, who has served the Indian community in a political way for over 16 years, making it possible for Indians, not only, but for all Suriname. He was more a nationalist leader than a racial leader. He was, if he was in power, he was always taking care not only of Indians in Suriname, but of the whole country, making him one of, the longest served parliamentarian all over the world. He served in parliament, I think, over 50 years. He died at the age of 84 in Holland. And for him, there is a statue at the Central Independence Square in the city of Paramaribo. Next slide, please. Of course, which country doesn't have a Mahatma Gandhi statue? We have more than 3 in Suriname alone, but this is the main one in which every year we have this Memorial Day. So on his birthday, October the 2nd, there's always a local organization together with the Indian Embassy, who take care of not missing this day out of this intelligent guy who brought so much knowledge about peaceful resistance, and also of social, social balance in many societies in the world, in South Africa and even in England and in India, of course, where he also fought for independence on a peaceful manner. And this is done every year, but in Nikeri, there's also a statue of him, and there are few private people who have statues of Mahatma Gandhi ji on their premises, which makes him one of the popular figures, role models of Indians in Suriname. Next picture, please. Of course, this is our most popular monument, not Aisha Bhosle in front of the statue, but Ba and Mai statue, which was fully designed by our Surinamese, how you say that, artist, Mr. Kedu, who has made this statue all of Surinamese aluminum. The statues are of aluminum, which was produced in Suriname at the time we had the aluminum refinery. And this monument is now quite famous. As you see that Mrs. Asha Bhosle also is in front of the statue. And I hope that you all can have a nice picture in front of this symbolic entrance of our Indian ancestors into Suriname. This statue is very popular. It has copies in the Suriname Ghat in Kolkata. There's also a copy in Unikeri, and the next copy is planned also in the district of Saramaka and in Comoray. Next photo, please. This is a simpler version of the memorial raised for because of 100 years of immigration. There were plenty of smaller monuments of this size all around the country where Indians live predominantly, and that we see from the start that there was always an idea of showing the other ethnical groups in Suriname that we are here to stay, and we do not plan to go elsewhere. Suriname is our fatherland, and we feel good here, and we have a reasonable, I'd say, lifestyle here, which we don't want to change for others. Next statue, please. This is the copy of the Baba and my statue of Paramaribo of the artist Mr. Kedu. Small differences. This one is from concrete. The one in the city is from aluminum. And you see that the concept is accepted. That even in India we have a copy of it now. And I hope that when we go to Nikeri, also visit this monument together with all the small monuments we have on this Brasa square in New Nikeri, which is the capital of the district of Nikeri. And we hope to see all of you. Of course, we cannot handle large groups, but we hope to have a reasonable group in Suriname visiting us next year, August 2023. And I hope that this was the first of many presentations of what you all can expect when you come over to visit us in Suriname. Thanks, Shalima.
Thank you so much, Rajan. Let me have a minute of Mr. Bhagwan Gangaram Pandey, please. I hope he can he unmute so that we can just have him speak to us a little bit. I just want all of you to be able, right. Welcome, sir. Go ahead, please.
Sabhi Ram Ram or Salam and Shubh Dipawali. Today we will put a diya on for our ancestors. It is the day for Dipawali. With our face, we are facing the south and saying the Lakshmi Mantra. Okay, Suriname is a beautiful country. So my job is for logistics support. And there is one clue. The earlier you book your accommodation, your flight travel, your tickets, everything, the cheaper it is. So don't wait too long. Follow the instructions by Mrs. Shalima and Dr. Mahabir. Suriname is beautiful. Join us. We are a peaceful and nice country. Good food, nice places to visit. So it will be a nice journey. So be on time. Email us, and we will try to have you the best days in Suriname. You're all welcome. हम आपके स्वागत करेंगे. Swagat is welcome. That's it.
Thank you very much. And to all of you all, Mr. Bhagwan Gangaram Pandey is the Managing Director of Ara Travel, and Ara Travel is the official travel service for this tour. So once you express your interest by filling out the form, which we have been sharing on WhatsApp and which we will email to you all, you will have his information, that of Rajan Baldev, and you'll be in communication with both of them in addition to us. And so you should be able to book your flights through Mr. Gangaram Pandey. You should be able to get any info you want to on Suriname through Mr. Baldev as well as Mr. Pandey. And let's hope to see many of you all. We put it out yesterday. We already have 17 people who have expressed interest, and we will be sharing the link with many of you all as we go forward. So sometime this week, you will see it in your email. So thank you, Mr. Pandey. Thank you, Rajan. We will be chatting with you all soon. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring today's program to a formal close. I want to thank all of our speakers again for an excellent job. And thank you all for being here with us. I'll now turn you over to our chairperson, Shakira. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Shalima, for being a wonderful moderator. And remember that we are still looking for more Indian elders over 80 years old to interview live next month again for part 2 of our series. And we are asking their children and grandchildren to help us in this oral history project. Thank you all for taking the time to participate. And thank you especially to the speakers. As I've said before, this public meeting is being hosted by the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center. And you can feel free to contact the ICC if you have books or reports to publish. Remember that we are asking you to kindly give us your suggestions as well as donations, and you can contact Dr. Kumar Mahabir for details. Thank you also to the advisory and planning team led by Dr. Kumar Mahabir, and also to our acting manager behind the scenes, Ravan. So thank you, Ravan Ramsingh, who has been recording the program and will edit and upload it to our website and to YouTube permanently for posterity. So our next topic next Sunday will be dating, marriage, pregnancy, and childbirth among teenage Indians in the diaspora. So please like, share, and follow our Facebook page. I am Shakira Mohammed of Trinidad and Tobago saying goodbye. May God bless you all. Dhanyavad.
Shubh Diwali, everybody. Bye.
Bye. So we have to run. We have to